What's happening, sales? Ascender Sean here, back at you with another high-ticket tune-up. I hope you're having a great week. It's off to a good start here on Tuesday, and we're going to dive right into it. Have you ever been in a spot where you closed a deal and all of a sudden something pops up and it ruins everything, and your new client's like, sorry, I'm out, and then they run away and they go the other direction? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you one thing to do that will prevent that for the future forever. What's happening, sales? Ascender Sean back at you with another high-ticket tune-up. Let's just jump right into it. We had a great question today that came out from Elise. Elise asks this. She says, Sean, I closed the deal, but then they backed out after something came up that I thought may have been a problem, but I didn't address. How do I handle this? Awesome question, easy answer. There is a magic phrase that you can use for this particular thing. So let me tell you a little story about how I learned this, because I think that's going to make a little bit of a difference for you. I used to sell electronics, and I would sell these circuit boards that would go inside, not a cell phone per se, but inside of actual government designed electronic stuff. And it was really, really, really cool. And there's this local company in Las Vegas where we had my facility. And I went down. There's a new company. I'd never met him. I got introduced to him through a referral. And I went down and I sat with the owner and we walked through a bunch of stuff. And then we got to this part about on circuit boards, there's this little thing on top of there. It's called a capacitor. Like, actually, it's a pretty advanced thing, like a capacitor. It's a little electronic. It stores energy and does some cool things. And there's these certain type of capacitors that they needed for the circuit board. And there was no way that the lead time to get those things from China was like 12 or 13 or 14 weeks. And this prospect, this client, needed these circuit boards delivered in like 8 weeks. And I knew it was going to be a problem before I went into the conversation, but how I addressed it was so bad, I lost the deal. So here's what happened. So I'm talking to this owner of this company and we go through the whole thing. He loves what I do. I love what he does. I know I can solve his problem and build him a bunch of circuit boards, but this one order had particularly a very, very tight lead time, right? We were going to be off by about 4 to 5 weeks. And instead of being the sales professional, I said, thank you very much. I took the order. I went back to my office and I gave the order to my purchasing department. And then they started making calls and buying all the components so that we could build the thing for them. And we had discussed a lead time. We didn't actually even talk about when the delivery of the circuit boards, even though I knew the delivery of the client. So this was totally on me. About 3 days later, I realized that, like, man, I have to address this because there's no way my client's going to be happy. So I called the client and I said, hey, this is a big problem. And he said, I knew it. I'm canceling the order. F you. And he'd already canceled the order. But here is the worst part. This cost us so much money because my purchasing team had already started buying components for the rest of the circuitry, except for that one piece, and in advance, and we had no kind of guarantee or backing. And so we were out thousands and thousands of dollars because we bought these electronics components when the order was canceled. And unfortunately, it was a very expensive learning lesson. And with this lesson comes the answer to this question. So there's one thing that you can say to actually back out after, again, let's read Elise's question. It says, Sean, I closed the deal, then they backed out after something came up that I thought may have been a problem but didn't address. Just like me, I ordered the electronics components and I didn't even talk about the lead time of that one specific one that they needed. How do I handle this? Well, there is one magic phrase that I'm going to share with you right now, and it's really powerful. This is the line right here. My biggest fear is, and it sounds like this. When you're using it in professional sales, you say something like this. You say, Joe, I know I can solve your problem. I definitely want to work with you. We agree that we're a fit. You can afford my services, and you and your spouse are the ones that actually make this decision here. My biggest fear is that we're going to lock arms. We're going to start moving forward. And because you're running multiple businesses, you're not going to dedicate the time necessary in order to install this solution the best for your business. Is that going to be a problem, right? And again, it's my one biggest fear. And for me, in my world now, is time, right? And if you're selling in the online space and you're trying to sell to entrepreneurs or business owners or CEOs, these people have limited time, just like we have limited time. In fact, we only have 24 hours in a day. Someone says they don't have time, it's not really a time issue, it's a priority issue. And so what we need to do is fight for priority. Well, how do we fight for priority? We bring up this line, right? If we know it's going to take some time, for example, we have software that we're selling now, which is amazing. And it takes a little bit of time for the entrepreneur or the person, the operator, the operations person that's actually running the system, get in there and learn, click some of the buttons. It's a little bit painful. It's learning a new software tool. But at the end of the day, if they put a little bit of time in there, boom, they're going to get it. So when I'm having the conversation up front, before I even get people involved with what I do, I say, listen, like, what kind of time are you committing to this? People come to me all the time and they say, Sean, I want to learn to sell. And I say, great, I can teach you to sell in a weekend. But here's my biggest fear. I teach you how to sell over a weekend, and then you have no opportunities coming to your at-bats. You have no at-bats to close deals. So let's talk about that, because that's probably the bigger problem than you having to learn how to sell. We can teach you that in a weekend. And then people are like, oh my God, I never even thought about that. Yes, let's open your calendar and look through it. And now what I'm doing is I'm addressing my biggest fear is that you don't have a system, or my biggest fear is, Mr. Entrepreneur, you're not going to have time to spend the necessary time to actually get the implementation part in so you can get the result that you're looking for. This is going to be is this going to be a problem? And they say yes. And then I say, you start. How do we solve it before we get started? And at that stage, then one of two things happens. The entrepreneur smokes out another objection or backs out, which is fine because we're not a fit for everybody. Or they say, yeah, let's open my calendar and look at this and put it down and get it done. And so then we go down and solve the biggest fear. And going back to Elise's question, she was, how do I deal with this up front? The thing is, don't close the deal until you've addressed the biggest fear. That's the secret. Because if you know that's going to be a hanger and it's going to be a hangnail, it's going to rip it off. It's going to be hurtful and painful to go through it. They process the thing and now you're stuck in an order. You're like, oh man, how do I back out of this? Well, you need to address it before. And that's the answer, my friends, is just use this one line, my biggest fear is, and this is how you will manage any time bomb that could possibly occur in the future. Hopefully this one's helpful for you today. Make sure to smash that like button. I love this topic. This is a great sales convo item. I always love talking about the sales convo. That's what I do. I've been doing it for a long time. Make sure to smash that like button so we can feed the algorithm gods. Share this to somebody who can use it. And don't forget, there's a sales ascender inside of each and every one of you. Make sure and hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel so you have lots more sales tips coming in at you 3 times a week. We'll talk to you next time. Have a wonderful Tuesday.